we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who's built a consistent, high producing business while serving smaller rural communities in a very hands on, relationship driven way. She brings a really thoughtful perspective on client connection and what it actually takes to operate at a high level outside of the major metropolitan markets. Christine Covington, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Great. Christine, I'm really excited to have you on this conversation or have you on the show to have this conversation because you're in an area that's different from, what a lot of the past guests have operated within, where we've seen a lot of like big city lenders, larger metropolitan areas. So you're going to bring a different perspective to the conversation that we really haven't gotten to hear a lot of. You're in a smaller part of smaller town, place it's a little more hand to hand combat, face to face. Everybody likes to kind of meet each other and be in person.
Yes.
So in that kind of environment, I guess let's back up first. How did you get your start in mortgage? And then, how do you operate in an environment like a rural area where you live?
So I actually originally started at a finance company way back in the day, Beneficial Finance. Like I graduated from Texas Tech in 2020, or not 2020, 2000. I, was looking for a job position in Lubbock, which originally I was planning on actually using my international business degree and German minor rather than stay in Lubbock, Texas. But I met a Lubbock guy and stayed here. So I needed to find something that was a career in Lubbock, which can at that time was probably harder than it is now, but there just was not as much industry. And so I had worked retail all through college. I'd worked for J.C. Penney all through college. And then I was a manager at J.C. Penney for a little bit right after. And then I just saw a job posting for a finance company. And my mom had been an escrow officer for most of my life. So I wasn't unfamiliar with real estate, but mainly on the title side from what I would hear from her. So then kind of branched out and started learning from there. Then I joined Wells Fargo a couple years after that and, managed to be in the subprime area for a while and then transitioned when subprime started going away in 2007, going back into a paper and learning all the other intricacies of the other loan programs. So, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. So, Lubbock has grown a lot over the years, but surrounding that area are a lot of smaller towns
Yeah.
that have like 10,000 people or less. And that's where a lot of your business comes
Yeah.
from. What do you think loan officers in other bigger parts of the, bigger markets misunderstand about someone in your situation?
Yes, I think that, I enjoy working with my, I guess it would be referred to as smaller town agents. And focusing on their needs a little more because truthfully, there's more loyalty there. A lot of them I've been working with, for 15, 16 years. And there's, once someone has become established normally as an agent in those communities, they stay as agents. You don't have as many, I think, that change around. So it also isn't really an option for me to piss anybody off. So, if I want to remain doing business in those communities, I have to keep the peace between agents. I have to be the, hollow ground that, if someone says something about someone else, I'm not going to repeat it. It is sometimes a little bit of a tightrope. In fact, I had a situation this morning where an agent that I know both of the agents really well, but they both do business a lot differently. And, one of the agents is sending an amendment to the other agent that the other one was like, I don't know why they're sending this. I told them we were not going to sign this. And I was like, oh, why don't you talk to them? But there are a lot of situations that I think I probably get in that I know I don't have the same issues whenever I do a transaction in Dallas or Austin. I definitely lend other places for clients that move, and then of course in Lubbock, but I don't run into those situations quite as often that, you have that awkwardness of, okay, I got to walk a tightrope with both these agents and hope that I get out of it with them both still liking me
Yeah, it's got to
and
be a
sending me more
delicate dance.
transactions. Yes, it
Right.
is. But for the most part, I enjoy working with all of them. A lot of the more established agents are now, it's crazy to me. Some of the like very new agents that I started with working 15 years ago are now the broker, so that's a, kind of fun because now it's like, I've been working with them a long time and now they have little new baby agents that they're saying, you just need to call Christine, she'll help you get it all done. And so that's, in a way, that is nice to have that established, rapport with some new agents that I would normally have to have built that rapport again with them. But so that is definitely a good thing. Or I have agents that I worked with their parents and now I work with them. So, that type of situation happens quite a bit in where we are. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, those are unique scenarios, but I can only imagine just the intricacies of those relationships and how you have to sort of be very on top of what happened last time and how well you need to know everybody and what's going on, and really the expectation to be on top of those relationships too. And you get into those kind of closer, smaller town environments, there's just a different way of operating. So and I guess on that
well, even
point,
the
you know
houses in general, yeah, I financed some houses like 4 and 5 times. So, that's kind
wow.
of funny too, is like they'll be like, hey, you financed for this in 2023, you financed this in 2017, you financed this in 2011. I mean, so you kind of get, okay, I remember this house. All right. Did they fix
Right.
this? Did they, I mean, or like seeing the value go up from, I mean, I had one, I financed for like 125,000 and now it's 250,000, and you're like, okay, that's interesting for sure.
Yeah, very cool. So, I know a lot of loan officers, they're put together really polished presentations as a part of the way that they just, communicate with their clients and when they're talking about loan consultations, but that doesn't really land with your clients. What are the things that build trust
Not
in your
as
world?
much. I mean, I definitely have clients that are in Lubbock, in that area that I do more polished presentations for, and we go over their, profile and everything that they can and do. But, a lot of times my consultations with my rural clients, they may be sitting in the middle of a field on a tractor. They may be going, 85 miles an hour down the road to, drive to Midland, Odessa. So there are plenty of times that, we're discussing things and then I'm emailing them an estimate and then I'm saying, hey, just call me or text me when you actually get time to review it, or if you have questions on what we've already discussed. So I feel like it makes me very good on the phone, but not necessarily do I, I don't spend a whole lot of time on those because, when I have, they're like, great, okay, just tell me what to do, Christine, and we go on down the road. But I feel like I spend a lot more time on the phone talking to people maybe than the average loan officer does now. I know that there's a lot more of like, I'm just going to make a video for the client and send it to them these days. And I think that's great. I think that there is certain clients that really appeals to, but then there's definitely, those that in our area that that's just going to be like, okay, can you just tell me what it really actually, what I really need to be looking at and what's really important?
Sure. Yeah. Now you've had some years where, the production numbers were great and you felt more like a problem solver versus being an advisor. This was something we talked about before. What made you, make a shift back toward being more connected with your clients? Because in the problem solving world, it seems like, that's a little quick and versus being an advisor where you're a little more involved.
Right. I think that, 2020, 2021, even first part of 2022, we were just trying to, push out loans and get things done for a lot of clients. And it had just become to the point, I had two assistants even between me and my processor. So, so there was, and a lot of times I was left out of things that were previous to that I was always involved in. And it seems like it really got to the point where clients, they talked to me when we locked in the loan. They talked to me a little bit, maybe when we went over an estimate. Sometimes my loan assistant would have gone over the estimates with them. So I think that there was just that disconnect, that not necessarily during that transaction they were very happy with what we did for them, and the communication was always there with someone on my team. But there was a time in which, like, they called back and, they talked to me and they're like, oh, well, I never actually talked to you, or I don't know them, or they were trying to call assistance for things. And I don't think that that probably really built as much business as I would like, even though, I nearly closed 300 loans a year those years. But I know a good handful, or I know a lot of those clients, mostly because they were previous clients to those years. But then I was having to get, okay, yeah, that whole time was such a blur that, you would just be like, okay, they got this problem. I'll get in there, figure out how to rearrange the loan and fix it. And then, you know, move on down the line. I joke that it really is bad if you get to the point that you're like, did I close that loan or not? And you're like a month out and you're like, oh yeah, we closed that like a month ago, and you're still thinking, oh yeah. I hate that feeling, so disconnected, that if somebody walks in the office I wouldn't even know who they are. So that, I think, now I have a lot more balance. Now more involved in my transactions than I was, for sure. I think it'll help me, when I want to build more, is trying to still find that time to be connected with the client.
Yeah. So have you started to build like infrastructure into the way your process is designed, or your team, that's helped free you up to be a little more involved in those situations?
Yeah, so, our team is set up where we have a loan assistant and processor. My loan assistant's really, once the loan becomes a real deal into a transaction with an address, that's the point at which, they will, either put in the address and, get everything going as far as disclosures, finishing up any documents that haven't been sent in, that kind of stuff. So I don't have a whole lot to do with the minute details. So we have that, and they've all worked with us for, 8 7 8 years, 9 years nearly, some of them. So we have a lot of experience, so that really helps. Both of our processors have been with us for 8 years. Everyone is very familiar with a lot of the clients, or at least with the agents. Once the loan is moving forward, a lot of times I'm not as heavily involved unless there's a major issue that I need to call the client and talk to them about. So I try to be pretty heavy into helping those clients decide what they're wanting to do as far as the loan, as far as locking in, even talking about the properties that they are working with, just so I can be very in touch with the agents too, because so many times that's where I'm looking to have my more my additional business from, is those agents that we're building a rapport with. So we just now are hiring, a loan setup person that lives in the Philippines. So that person will, when an application comes in, will help me with, getting documents and at least telling me, okay, this one has good credit. You need to, reach out to them pretty quickly, and I can, jump on the ones that need, really fast service, and then we can take care of the ones that need other things to be done, or there's a lot of other questions on their application. We can dive into those without, it's very hard some days if you wake up and you have four applications and you're like, I don't know which one to focus on. But that hopefully will help that process get a little bit more streamlined, where I'm actually focusing my time on those that can go into contract quickly and don't need other questions answered.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier. Your mom's been in the title work for a long time. Your network runs deep. How has growing up in the market that you're in shaped the way that you conduct business?
I think that you definitely have to be careful about, who you're talking to. And it is funny sometimes when you're out at a restaurant, you want to make sure who's around and what you're talking about in this type of market. I mean, I used to go to the grocery store looking like a homeless person, and I don't do that anymore, because I'm gonna probably run into five people I know. In fact, I like to go to estate sales on the weekends, and so since my kids are older, that's kind of my free time that I do on the weekends. And I've ran into several customers at estate sales, so I'm like, I guess I can't drive, be a homeless person at the estate sales either. I just think that you're not a political figure, but you start feeling like, okay, there are eyes on you. That person knows my mom. That person, there's, people that have known her for 40 years, or sometimes people don't even realize though that I'm her daughter for a while. So it's kind of funny. She kind of keeps to herself. She's not like big into the public, but she has helped a lot of people in escrow and title over the years.
So, what's the best estate sale find that you have made?
The best estate sale find. I have found I'm big into China and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I like to I like wine a lot, so I buy a lot of the wine glasses. I have about four of, they're called sommelier wine Riedel glasses. They're $150 a piece, and I've probably bought four of those for like $2 a piece. So those are
Nice.
always fun to find. I just don't, people probably don't know what they even are, that a wine glass that looks, it's just a big wine glass, how expensive something like that can be. But I have an annual Friendsgiving that will be on our sixth year this year, that went from 30 people in 2020, and now is, last year was 75 people that I host at my house, and I serve on China. So, we had to bring a tent in last year. I take all the furniture out of my living room and dining room, or not my living room, and I have a wine room that I take all the furniture out. So there are literally people in long tables sitting on eating on China for Friendsgiving. So,
That's
and
awesome.
that's kind of the what that's the reason that the estate sale thing started. And now I just like to go and I'm just making sure that my kids are going to have the largest estate sale ever or something.
You're just loading up for later, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well, it's how you give back.
yeah, exactly. It's fine though. It's, just when when you like to host, it's just fun to have those things. I have a supper club that I do with about 8 friends that will do a full, sit down uh, dinner with china and decor, and you cook everything from scratch. Everybody's rotating every couple months to host.
That's amazing.
So I don't know. We're just trying to get back. I try to say that I'm in my grandma years because, I try to learn new things all the time. I've learned to play mahjong. I kind of learned to play bridge, but that one is not real great. I'm learning to sew this year, so I teach mahjong to realtors and to it's just
That's
trying to
awesome.
keep
I love that.
doing something new every day.
That's
I
right. Well,
don't I don't really
if you're not
understand
growing, you're
everything
dying, right?
before you. I couldn't just do mortgage 24/7. I don't really understand being that, you know, one dimensional.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. You've got to have outlets, right? You've got to have things that feed the
Mm.
soul. And, when you've got those things on the side, it makes you a more interesting person too, right? Like you've got hobbies, you got things to talk about. People are going to ask you
Well, and
questions.
I
It
mean,
just gives you
truthfully, I
something.
meet people that I do mortgages for. I mean,
Hmm.
it's funny. I just got a text from a friend of mine that she was a wine distributor. Now she's a professor at Texas Tech. And she's like, hey, I need to talk mortgages with you this afternoon. That is a connection that, because of all the things that I've been involved in, I will maybe do something with her. I think the more people in our business is where, you end up not having to be completely dependent upon, okay, I've got to get all my referrals from a real estate agent or a builder. I mean, I probably have every month, there's probably 3 or 4 that are repeat clients. There's, a couple that are just people that I've met. There's usually 3 or 4 that are people that I've met, people that, just know what I do. And that's how we ended up talking. And then there's the agent referrals. I think if you put all those eggs in one basket, you end up really having a lot of fear in your business.
Right. Yeah. They call it having
Where the
the
next
third
transaction.
place, right? You've got your
Right.
home, you've got work, and then you've got that third place that you hang out wherever that is. For some, it's the gym. For others, it's
Right.
church. It's different things. And it's
Right.
also okay to have a fourth place and a fifth place. And it could be a dinner club and mahjong and other things like that. And so but being out in the community really does help your cause as an originator
It
to
does.
make connections and build trust with people that say, I know a mortgage person. I play mahjong with Christine, and so when I have a mortgage question, I'll make sure to reach out to her. So, but Christine,
Exactly.
as we get here to the end, I had one like just final question for you. Because we've been talking a lot about building a business in a rural area. If you were giving advice to someone that was in a market like yours on how to build a business from the ground up in mortgage, what would be the first 3 things that you would say they should focus on?
I mean, first of all, you better know your area and what types of transactions you're going to be working on. I mean, I have to kind of be a jack of all trades on. I know how to do, manufactured transactions and USDA. I would definitely suggest, if you're going to work rural, you have to be able to at least, not necessarily are you going to do a ton of USDA just because of the stipulations that are on those loans, and just the number of people actually qualify for them, but just people want to talk about them because they are zero down. You really need to be prepared to know the ins and outs and whether it's a possibility for people and what the agents need to know. I think you, second of all, need to find, to 2 influencers in your market that are real estate agents. They either real estate agents or a local bank, if they don't have mortgage, is having those people as the ones that start helping you promote yourself. I'm lucky that I have in my markets have a couple of agents that, I established with, and then they, kind of started spreading the word of, I'm using Christine. She's so great. Every transaction is smooth. I mean, I have one agent that absolutely will not let, and like she will require that I do a pre-approval before she will accept an offer that, I mean, she'll always make sure that I at least have pre-approved them, even if they decide to use another lender, just because it's just over the years that trust is just there. And she's like, every time I don't use you, it blows up. And I was like, okay, well, and so she tells everybody in town, but it's having that, you can kind of tell who those people are because they're the ones that are friends with all the rest of the agents. You've got to find that person or people in your market. It could be a title person. I mean, I have a couple of title agents that, they're always singing our praises and saying, well, just if you've got a problem, you just need to call Christine and Benchmark. They'll fix it. And so, having that trust is, I think people, focus too much on maybe attacking the whole market. You don't need the whole market. Like even in a small market, you really only need 1 to 2 good agents that really like you and they're going to spread the word. Now, are you going to get all the business overnight? No. Like it's going to be, it's slow just like everything else. But in those markets, I think that once you have the trust, you're more likely to keep it.
Yeah.
They're not going to see
Well,
shining objects as easily.
I love that advice. And I just appreciate you being a part of the lowdown, Christine. It's been great getting your
Yes. Thank you for
story
having
and learning
me.
a little bit more about you. And definitely going to continue cheering you on from the sidelines. So thanks a bunch for being a part of the show.
All right. Appreciate you. Have a good one.